Okay, we're going to get started on the bumblebee hat. First thing you want to do is find out how big you want your brim to be. So where you want it to sit, whether you want it to come in on top of the ears or under the ears or wherever you want. So this is a little snug because he's got pretty good size ears. I mean head. So decide where you want that to sit. So take your measurer and measure around the doll's head, or baby's head, or teenager's head, or your child's head. It doesn't matter who you're making it for, it's all going to be the same. Okay, so we've got 13 inches as to where I want that brim of the hat to be. So I'm going to add, because I'm going to put batting inside the brim, I'm going to add 1.5 inches. I've been doing that on all of them, and so far that 1.5 inches seems to be working for me. The 1/2 inch is for your quarter-inch seam, and then the 1 inch is for just the fluff, so you have enough room to do your sewing, adding in the top of the hat, and you know, just the bulk of the fleece, because you've got the fluffy fleece and you've also got the batting inside, so that extra 1 inch seems to work for me. Okay, so when I tried to do a bee bonnet, first thing I did is I went online and looked for a free bee pattern. I couldn't find anything but this one, and unfortunately it had this long trail, and I didn't really want that. So I printed it up, and I thought, well, you know, when I'm on the black, the last thread, I can turn around, I can advance my needle and skip this entire tail. So I'm going to show you how I did that on the sewing machine. But first of all, I'm going to have to determine where I want to place this on my hat. When I made the first one, I put it too far over this way. So I've decided that I want it more over here on the side. But one thing you have to remember when you're dealing with these kind of patterns, you always have to remember where the center is on here. So even though I'm putting this on my machine, the center of that design is going to be here. So I have to take that into account when I put my fleece in my embroidery machine. I'm using, usually if you go online and they ask you how to embroider on fleece, it tells you to use the water soluble on top and bottom. Last time I did this, I just used the tearaway stabilizer because I don't have much of the water soluble left. I used the water soluble on this one. In fact, I used it on the top and I used it on the bottom on both sides, because this is the really plush fleece. So when you're dealing with this kind of fleece, you do want to use the water soluble top and bottom. But on this bumblebee, I'm just going to use the tearaway stabilizer, and I'm only going to put it on the one side. Okay, so that's that. Now where did I get this bee? I went to, you go online, she does, her website's kind of old. It's called Needle Passion Embroidery. Needle Passion Embroidery, I think that's what it is. Oh, my end's not working. Needle Passion Embroidery Designs. So you go there, and this was set up in 2007 or 2005, so she's been around for a while. And a lot of her designs are perfect because they're small enough to fit the 4x4 frame, and they're just cute little designs. They work perfect for doll clothes. She has really nice monograms. She also takes PayPal, and she takes credit card. But anyway, go and find, go down and it says more stock and machine embroidery designs. Go to the summer bumblebee right here, and she has a whole series of bumblebees. They're so cute. This one says don't bug me, honey, and all kinds of them. But at the very bottom, she'll give you a free sample. So this is a free embroidery design sample. So you just click download here, and then you can save it to your machine. I already have it saved in my machine, so I'm not going to save it again. But anyway, that's that. So let's get to the embroidery part, and I'll be right back. Okay, I uploaded the pattern to my machine, but because the pattern is so big, I'm going to cut it down to size, and I'm going to rotate it a little bit. Also, the pattern calls for yellow, and I'm going to switch to gold instead of the bright yellow. It looks good on white, but when you're back against the yellow background, I think the gold looks a little bit better. Okay, so first of all, I've already uploaded the pattern, so I'm going to select it, and I'm going to load it on my machine, and I'm going to go to Adjust, Layout. Okay, so I'm going to shrink this as little as I can get it. So we're going to go down, it's not very much, it's 343 from 39 something, so it's not very much. Let's go to Layout. I'm going to rotate it a little bit because I want it to sort of go down a little bit. So you can't rotate it much because it's got that big long tail in it. So let's just see how much we can go. There's 359 degrees, 358, 357, still going. 356, it'll let me go. But because it's such a big design, you can only go so far before it's going to turn the whole, go sideways. Okay, so 354, let's try one more. 353, so it's going to let me rotate it to 353. I think that's what I used on this. So we shrunk it and we rotate it. So let's go ahead and sew it. Okay, so I'm going to do the white first. Now I'm just using a regular embroidery needle. I was over at Joann's. I had a coupon, and they're having a great sale this Labor Day, the President's Day sale. But they have a friend sent me an email, said they had the new metallic, Schmitz comes out with a metallic. They're the 9014 for embroidery. You can get you have two 9014s on your regular embroidery, but the eyes on this are about twice the size of the eye on the regular embroidery, and that'll stop the metallic threads from from shredding on you. So, but on the top they're still the same red and blue color on the top. But if you want to work with, if you're having trouble with the metallic threads shredding on you, this is what you want to get. They're $7.99 though here, and this was the regular is $6.99. But it's nice to have, especially if you do a lot of embroidery. Okay, so we've rotated, we've shrunk. Now we're going to do the white. So let's go ahead and get my thread organized here. Threw my scissors somewhere. There they are. Okay, so I'm doing the wings, and that's white. So I'll come back after the wings are done. Okay, I did the white and I did the gold to save time, so we're up to the black now. See how we're at the black? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to Adjust. Okay, see how it says that? And I'm going to see how you've got a thread color, so I'm going to go plus thread. Okay, so see how my thread is? I'm going to advance my thread. So I'm going to hold down my plus sign. And it's going to put that entire trail. It's going to do this entire trail and come all the way back up until it gets to the bottom of the bee again. So hold down your advance needle. My thread got caught, so that's not, let me hold it out of the way. Okay, so keep advancing. Okay, let's go back. Okay, I went too far. I went too far in advance. Okay, I'm right in the right spot. How do I know that? because my next stitch is going to be right at the bottom of the bee. So I'm going to go one more up, and that's it. I'm right at the bottom of the bee. So let's push that up, down, up, pull your threads through, and then go ahead and hit your start. Cut this off, get it out of the way. Okay. Okay, I'll come back when it's done with the black. Okay, you just finished sewing the bee, so I'm going to go ahead and say okay. I'm going to lift this up, take it off the hoop. And there's the bottom, so we can just cut these off. We don't need to, but we will because we're just going to use that for... So there's your bee. We've done everything, but we didn't do the tail. Well, it's not really a tail. We didn't do the trail. So now we've got a small bee, we've rotated it, and we've lost the tail. So this is going to be the brim of our hat right here. See, that's it. And there it is on the hoop still. Okay, so one thing you got to remember on this tearaway stabilizer with fleece, don't tear it away. We're just going to cut it away because it'll stretch the fleece if you try and tear too roughly on. Let's see if I can loosen this up. Okay, and that's going to be our brim of our bee bonnet. And there you go. It's a cute little design, and it's not bad for a freebie. Okay, so I'm going to clean up this mess, change my machine over to a sewing machine, and then I'll be back. Okay, I have my machine switched over to sewing machine. I've started my cut on my brim of my bonnet. We measured the head, it was 13, I added 1.5 inches, so I've got 14 across here. And what I wanted to do is I wanted to make sure that my bumblebee was in the center. So if you've got like these plastic rulers, you can actually put your design right in the center. It works for the long one too. This one is a fussy cut ruler, but you can actually center your design using one of these rulers. If not, just measure the top of your design here and the bottom of your design and make sure those two are the same, because that's what we're going to do. We're going to sew that like this, and that's going to be the design. That's where it's going to fit on the design. Okay, I left my other ruler over there, but anyway, here we go. So I've just got a plain piece of batting. I'm going to sew this along the edge all the way around this batting. Don't let your fleece stretch the batting, because it's going to want to. So the easiest thing to do is to pin it all the way around before you actually we're just tacking it down before we actually serge it together. But the fibers of the fleece likes to grab the fibers of the batting, and before you know it, you're all misaligned and sewing off in one direction. So what I found is if you just use pins and pin it down all the way around before you sew it, you have a tendency not to have it go askew on you, because it really does like to do that. When I first did these on that white with the batting, it was like, oh, it wanted to go everywhere. I ended up going like this off of one edge, and finally I just figured out that if you pin it all the way around while you're sewing it, and used another trick is to use a basting stitch. so that you don't have such tight stitches on these. That helps too. Another thing I'm using is a jean needle. I'm going through, this fleece is really dense fibers, so you want to have a strong needle to get through here. You might be able to use the, I don't think you can use a universal, you might be able to, but I'm using the jean, sewing machine jean needle for blue jeans with the blue color on it. Okay, so this is where I'm going to baste my batting onto the brim of the hat. So I've got it set. I want it to be at the edge. So I'm going over to 6.5 on the edge, and I'm going to give myself a 4.5 stitch. So let's go ahead. I'm just using white thread. You can use whatever color, of course, you want. So my foot pedal over here. It was helping me too to go down both sides and then come on the edges too, and I did it before. Whatever works for you, just as long as you can get this basted down. Go off the edge. Okay, see how that sort of it even did it on this one too, even with all the pins in it. So you really do, that's why I suggest doing it like this. It just wants to do its own thing. Oh, I didn't tell you how wide I made this. You want to, since you've got your bee in the center, you can make your brim as wide as you want it. I think in this case, I don't know, this isn't a measuring ruler, but I think I did 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I went 5 inches wide on this one, but like I said, you can do whatever it is you want to do on that. You can go as wide as you want, but just make sure that you don't go smaller than half of what your design is, because if you do that, you're going to not get your whole design in. So you do have to worry about being bigger than the design. Okay. Alright, so let's just cut this off. Oh, I didn't show you the back of the bee before I covered it. All I did was cut the paper off from down around it. Just cut the paper off, that's all I did. Just like those old patches you used to see. It would have the white on the back of them. I don't know if you can see through it or not. Here's the design and here's the paper. I just cut all the way around the bee. Okay, so there we have the brim of the hat. Okay, let's throw that away. Alright, so let's test it. So we're going to sew this in half. So let's pin this down, because that's where our seam is going to be. We're going to serge right there. And then we're going to flatten this out. Okay, so let's go ahead and put our 1/4 inch seam in here. Let me do the seam first. So we're going to sew these together. And there's our 1/4 inch seam. We're going to flip this. And let's see how it fits on the head. Okay, there's our seam. Where's the doll? So let's get the doll's head on here. Let's see if it fits. Now this is where you're going to be able to adjust it. If 14.5 inches is too much for you, you can make it smaller. But this kid's got a big head. So I think that, see, I got my B in the right place this time. I think that that 1/4 inch seam is going to be perfect on there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and sew the back seam, and then I'm going to serge it all the way around just like this, except I'm going to do it on this one. And that's until the next step is getting our B part done. Okay, so I'll be back. Okay, what I did is I went ahead and double stitched this on the 1/4 inch. And when I put this in here, when I fold it in half, I'm going to put this bulk to one side and one to the other. That's not something you would normally do when, because you're actually making it turn itself on there. But it tends to reduce some of the bulk, so I'm doing it. I have been doing it all along, and it doesn't seem to matter that I do it that way. Okay, so I'm going to do this. We're going to sew this all the way along. Now, if you don't want your brim this fluffy, then don't make it this fluffy. You can use the Warm and Natural, the really fine, small cotton batting, the low loft batting, however you want. Another thing you can do now too, once I sew this and I decide it's too wide for me, I don't want it this wide, I can still cut some of this down just by putting another seam in it and trimming off the excess that I don't want. So, so it's better if you err on the side of too much than not enough, because you can always fix it. You can always fix it if it's too much. You can't fix it if there's not enough. Well, you could, but it wouldn't look very nice. Okay, so we've got that. So now we're just going to sew around here. Let's do that. I'm going to go with a high stitch because I'm going to serge this on the serger. So I'm going to go to my bigger stitch. We're just doing this as a hold on this stitch. So let's go ahead and get that in there. If you want to try doing it this way, you can, but chances are, unless you're making it for an adult head, it's going to be, you know, the nice thing about these, you can make them for adults too. If you're going to, you know how much they cost if you buy your team colors, but if you make your own team, you can put your own sayings on them. I mean, they're so easy to make. That's why I'm using a jean needle. Look how much bulk I have to get through. Okay, I think that's probably it for today, but let's try it on the, let's put it on normal like it would be. And then all that's left now is I'm going to go cut some 2-inch strips and make the hood part of this. So let's put it on the doll and see how it looks. So we're going to put this, open that up, put the seam to the inside, there's the front. And there's the head. Okay, so that is the brim part. And I think once we get the, there's the back of the back seam right in the back. I got the B where I wanted it. That is the B bonnet. So all we gotta do is add the top, the inside, and we'll be done with it. Okay, I'll pick this back up tomorrow. Alright, see you later.